Welcome back, everyone, to another deep dive into the fascinating world of rare coins, where small pieces of metal that most people would overlook in their pocket change can sometimes turn out to be worth millions. And today, we are going to talk about an astonishing example that has stunned collectors, historians, and treasure hunters alike: the 1973 D Lincoln 1-cent coin. A penny that under normal circumstances should be worth only its face value of 1 cent, but in extremely rare and extraordinary cases has been valued as high as $40 million because of the unique combination of mint errors, striking mistakes, and special circumstances that make it a numismatic treasure unlike anything else. So let's begin by setting the stage and giving you a clear sense of why a coin so small and seemingly ordinary could rise to such incredible heights in value. Because when we talk about the Lincoln Cent series, which began in 1909 with the introduction of the wheat reverse, honoring Abraham Lincoln's centennial, and later shifted in 1959 to the memorial reverse, and then decades later to other designs, we are talking about one of the most widely produced coins in the world, struck by the billions at multiple mints including Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco. And the Denver mint mark on the 1973 D tells us this particular cent came out of Denver. But as with any mass production, mistakes happen, and when they do in the world of coin collecting, they can lead to extraordinary value, because collectors crave rarity and uniqueness, and errors are the very definition of rarity, since they slip through quality control, evade the melting pots, and survive into circulation. And in the case of the 1973 D penny we are discussing, the combination of errors and special characteristics is so extreme and unusual that it has created a legend around this coin, driving collectors to bid astronomical sums at auctions, and fueling stories of everyday people finding treasures in their change. So what makes this specific coin so valuable? Let's break it down. First, we must consider the possibility of a double die obverse, which occurs when the coin's die is misaligned or improperly impressed, leading to a doubling effect on the date, lettering, or design features such as Lincoln's profile. And in 1973 there were known instances of double dies, though extremely rare. And when you add a mint mark into the mix, like the Denver D, that may also be repunched or misplaced, you suddenly have a coin that looks dramatically different from normal cents. Collectors are trained to spot even slight doubling on the date, especially the 1973, because of how bold the numbers can appear when struck twice, and in the right lighting it looks almost like a shadowed second image, creating visual rarity that jumps out at even casual viewers. Then we add to this the possibility of striking errors such as off-center strikes, where the coin blank was not perfectly aligned in the press and part of the design is missing or shifted, sometimes with a crescent-shaped blank area of metal on the edge. And if the date and mint mark are still visible on such an error, collectors go crazy, because that provides both rarity and identifiable context. And some 1973 D cents are known to have been struck on improper planchets, such as leftover blanks from foreign coins or from dimes or nickels, meaning the penny design was impressed on the wrong size or wrong metal planchet, making for dramatic errors that can be confirmed by weight, size, or color differences. And the presence of copper alloys changing during the 1970s makes things even more interesting, because while 1973 pennies were supposed to be made of 95% copper and 5% tin and zinc, mistakes could lead to wrong compositions and transitional errors, where the planchet did not match the intended alloy, are among the most prized in numismatics. So imagine finding a 1973 D struck on an aluminum test planchet or on a silver dime blank. Suddenly you have an ultra rarity, and when authentication experts confirm such a piece, it can be worth millions. And in fact, rumors of unique examples with these features are what led to astronomical valuations like $40 million, because an auction scarcity combined with demand can skyrocket prices beyond imagination. Then consider die breaks, cracks, and cuds, which occur when the die used to strike coins becomes worn or damaged and creates raised lumps, missing sections, or odd distortions in the coin's design, and the 1973 D has been reported with some spectacular die cracks across Lincoln's head, face, or the reverse memorial building, and dramatic cuts where part of the rim is obliterated by a blob of extra metal. These are eye-catching and instantly mark a coin as an error piece. And when they occur in conjunction with doubling or wrong planchets, the rarity is compounded. Then you have the broader context. 1973 was a year of heavy minting, with billions of cents produced, but the Denver Mint especially was known for some quality control issues, producing coins with weaker strikes or with minor varieties. So error hunters often pay special attention to Denver issues, making the 1973 D a prime target. And if you add provenance, meaning the history of a specific coin, such as if it was discovered in a hoard, passed through famous collections, or authenticated and slabbed by top grading services like PCGS or NGC with a designation like MS67 red double die obverse on a wrong planchet with off-center strike, the coin becomes an absolute legend, commanding tens of millions in value at high-profile auctions where elite collectors compete, and the bidding war itself drives the price up, because rich investors see such coins as tangible assets and conversation pieces. So the 1973 D penny valued at $40 million is not just about the copper, not just about the mistakes, but about the convergence of history, rarity, demand, and storytelling that surrounds it, making it a numismatic marvel. And when you think about the psychology of collectors, owning a one-of-a-kind error penny is like owning a piece of American history that no one else can ever match. It is a ticket to immortality in the coin world, and that explains why even though most 1973 D pennies are common and worth only face value, the rarest of the rare with spectacular errors can achieve mind-boggling sums. And as we dive deeper, let's imagine all the error scenarios that could elevate such a coin, such as a 1973 D double denomination error where a cent was struck on a struck dime or quarter, leaving traces of two coin designs overlapping, or a mule error where the obverse of the cent was paired with the reverse of another denomination like a dime reverse. Something that should be impossible but occasionally happens when dies are accidentally mismatched, and such pieces instantly become legends. And if one of these survived from the Denver Mint in 1973, authenticated and proven genuine, its value could easily be in the tens of millions. Then think about the dramatic visual effect of broad strikes without a collar, where the penny flares out larger than normal but still retains the design, or multiple strikes where the coin was struck twice or three times in the press, creating overlapping images that look like ghostly echoes of Lincoln's face. These are captivating to collectors because they showcase the physical process of minting gone wrong, and when combined with rarity of date and mint mark, the appeal is irresistible. So the story of the $40 million 1973 D penny is not only about one coin, but about the entire spectrum of mint errors and varieties that can occur, the dedication of collectors who study them, and the excitement of discovering one in the wild. Because every coin in your pocket change is a tiny piece of history, and you never know when one might turn out to be a life-changing fortune, and that's why people keep looking, keep searching through rolls of cents, keep studying books and guides, because the dream of finding a legendary error coin is alive and powerful, and the 1973 D penny serves as a shining example of what's possible when rarity, error, and demand collide. And so as we close this exploration, remember that while most of these coins will never reach such heights, the fact that one penny can be worth $40 million proves that treasure can hide in plain sight. And that's the magic of numismatics, where history, chance, and human passion come together in a small copper disc that once jingled unnoticed in someone's pocket, but now represents a story that will be told for generations. So keep your eyes open. Check your change. Next, 1974 1-cent USA coin. Today we are going to unravel the incredible story of how a simple 1974 1-cent coin, something you would normally just pass along in your change without a second thought, managed to become one of the most valuable pieces of modern coinage, worth an astonishing $3 million because of its unique blend of errors, mistakes, minting anomalies, and historical circumstances that make it a once-in-a-lifetime discovery. And as we begin this journey together, I want you to imagine holding a penny from 1974, a coin that most people would consider ordinary. Yet in certain rare cases it holds the potential to change someone's life forever, because collectors, investors, and enthusiasts know that mistakes made at the United States Mint can transform small copper discs into priceless rarities. And the 1974 cent embodies this phenomenon in a way that few other coins do, as its backstory connects to experimentation with metals, changes in U.S. coinage composition, and the sheer unpredictability of the minting process. So let's take a closer look at how exactly this humble coin could command millions at auction, and why the possibility of errors and oddities in 1974 created a perfect storm for numismatic history. And one of the first things to understand is that 1974 was a transition year where the government and mint officials were seriously considering moving away from the traditional bronze composition used in cents since 1909, as the rising cost of copper during the early 1970s sparked concerns about production expenses, which is why experimental planchets were produced in aluminum as a cheaper alternative. And while these 1974 aluminum cents were never officially released for circulation, a handful of them escaped into private hands, creating an immediate frenzy among collectors once the public learned of their existence. And it is believed that some of these aluminum pieces were handed out to members of Congress as test strikes, and although most were recalled and destroyed, a few specimens survived, making them some of the rarest modern American coins. So when we speak of a 1974 1-cent piece being worth millions, part of that value comes from the mysterious aluminum cents and the legends that surround them. But beyond the aluminum issue, there were also countless other minting anomalies in 1974, including off-metal errors, double dies, off-center strikes, wrong planchet strikes, broad strikes, die cracks, die clashes, and variations in strike quality, all of which could elevate a common coin into the realm of rare treasure. And imagine finding a coin struck on the wrong planchet, such as a dime or foreign denomination blank, something that did occur from time to time in the 1970s due to leftover blanks or simple mint oversight. And suddenly the penny in your hand no longer weighs what it should, and no longer has the expected metallic shine, turning it into a valuable collectible. And the possibilities for error varieties in 1974 are endless, from dramatic double die obverse, where Lincoln's profile and inscriptions like "In God We Trust" appear doubled, to striking anomalies where part of the design is missing or misaligned. And collectors prize such pieces because they capture a rare glimpse into the minting process, when human error or machine malfunction created something unintended yet spectacular. And when you add the historical backdrop of the aluminum experiments, the stakes become even higher, as people speculate whether a coin is a legitimate trial piece, an authentic escapee from the mint, or a simple production accident. And in the world of high-end coin collecting, uncertainty and rarity drive the value skyward, which is why certain examples of the 1974 cent have reached astronomical figures, including the $3 million valuation that continues to astonish new collectors and seasoned experts alike. Because such a figure is not attached to an ordinary copper cent, but to a specimen carrying unique attributes, mysteries, or errors that set it apart from billions of ordinary coins minted a year. And part of what makes these coins so enthralling is the thrill of the hunt, since virtually anyone could stumble across one in circulation or in a family coin jar. And countless stories exist of rare pennies surfacing decades after they were struck, tucked away unnoticed until someone with knowledge recognized the signs of rarity. And if we dig even deeper into the 1974 cent story, we find fascinating details like how some aluminum cents made it into the hands of collectors despite government efforts to reclaim them, sparking legal debates over ownership. And we also see how other varieties, like transitional errors, coins struck with planchets or designs intended for different years, add to the pool of rarities, as the mint was in a constant state of experimentation and transition during this era. And when collectors piece together this history, they realize how a small copper-colored disc carries within it a much bigger narrative of American economics, politics, and minting technology, and that narrative makes the coin not just a piece of metal but a tangible artifact of history with a story worth millions. And when you hold such a coin, you are not only holding a mistake but also a piece of the struggle between cost and tradition, between secrecy and discovery, between routine minting and extraordinary accidents. And that tension adds layers of value beyond just metal or face value, which is why auction houses can command multi-million-dollar figures for special specimens, because buyers are not just purchasing a coin, they are purchasing the story, the rarity, and the bragging rights of owning something that virtually no one else in the world has. And the 1974 1 cent is the perfect storm of these factors, as its aluminum experiments remain legendary. Its mint errors range from subtle to spectacular, and its mystique keeps fueling collector dreams. And when a coin like this crosses the auction block, wealthy collectors are willing to bid sky high because they know opportunities like this come once in a lifetime. And in fact, the anticipation of such coins appearing has led to decades of coin roll hunting, treasure searching, and careful examination by everyday people who dream of turning a penny into a fortune. And that dream is not far-fetched because history shows it has happened. And for the 1974 cent valued at $3 million, the story continues to inspire curiosity, passion, and excitement across the coin community, making it more than just a collector's item, but a cultural symbol of how small errors can create massive value. So as we continue exploring the details and imagining all the ways a simple penny could reach such a price, we realize that it is a reminder to never overlook the small things, to check every coin, and to remember that history and fortune often hide in the most unexpected places. And that is what makes the tale of the 1974 1 cent so powerful, so enduring, and so irresistible for anyone with an interest in treasure hunting, numismatics, or the mysteries of money itself. And that concludes our incredible exploration of how a penny could be worth $3 million, and why the errors and mistakes of 1974 remain one of the most intriguing chapters in coin history. Next, 2005 Lincoln penny today, as we dive into the fascinating world of rare coins, the unexpected treasures that can be hiding right in plain sight inside your pocket change, coin jars, or even old boxes passed down from family members. And in today's deep exploration, we are going to focus on the extraordinary story of the 2005 1 cent coin, a humble Lincoln penny that under normal circumstances is worth only a single cent. Yet, because of unusual errors, striking mistakes, rarity factors, and collector demand, one specific example of this year has been valued at an astonishing $1 million. Which is almost impossible to believe until you understand the circumstances that make it so valuable. And that's what makes this discussion so thrilling. Because in this long and detailed journey, we will unravel how errors, like off-center strikes, double dies, misaligned dies, wrong planchet errors, broad strikes, die caps, and other anomalies combined with minting conditions, low survival rates, and collector demand can turn what looks like an ordinary penny into a fortune. And we'll not only explore the technical aspects of the minting process that can cause such valuable variations, but also walk through the possibilities, theories, and documented examples that show why 2005 pennies can become treasures worth life-changing amounts of money. So sit back and enjoy this exploration as we break down every possible factor in one long, continuous narrative without pause, because the story of the $2005 million cent is one of rarity, fascination, and the pure excitement that keeps collectors and enthusiasts searching every pocket of change they come across. And to begin, we have to look at the context of 2005 itself, when the United States Mint continued producing billions of Lincoln cents at both the Philadelphia and Denver mints, mostly struck on copper-plated zinc planchets weighing 2.5 grams, with the familiar design of Abraham Lincoln on the obverse and the Lincoln Memorial on the reverse, a design used from 1959 until 2008, so nothing about the year immediately screams rarity or uniqueness, yet hidden within those billions were a few coins that went wrong in such remarkable ways that they became some of the most valuable pennies in modern U.S. history, and understanding this requires us to take a closer look at the types of errors that could occur. For example, double die obverse errors, where the image of Lincoln's portrait or the inscriptions like, "In God We Trust, Liberty," or the date 2005 appear double due to a misalignment during the hubbing of the die. And when this happens, the doubling is dramatic and visible to the naked eye. Collectors go crazy for it because it's so distinct and undeniable, and such doubling in certain dates has commanded tens of thousands of dollars at auction. But when combined with other unusual conditions, it can multiply value. Now consider off-center strike errors, where the coin is struck partially off the blank planchet so that part of the design is missing and part of the blank surface remains exposed, and the more dramatic the off-center, especially when it still shows the date, the more valuable it becomes. And then there are wrong planchet errors, which are among the most valuable of all because they occur when a cent design is accidentally struck on a planchet meant for another denomination, like a dime or even a foreign coin, creating a coin with the wrong weight, wrong size, and a shocking appearance that collectors treasure because they are one in a million mistakes that slip through strict mint controls. And reports exist of 2005 Lincoln cents struck on dime planchets, nickel planchets, and even foreign blanks, and such coins can sell for tens of thousands of dollars depending on condition. So you can see how easily the right error combined with rarity can skyrocket value. And then we must consider die breaks, sometimes called cuds, where a piece of the die cracks or breaks off, leaving raised blobs of extra metal on the struck coin. And in dramatic cases where the cud covers large parts of the coin, these errors can be highly sought after. And in 2005 there are documented examples of such dramatic cuds on both obverse and reverse that add to their desirability. And when you consider combinations, such as a double die with an off-center strike or a cud combined with a wrong planchet, you start to see why the possibilities multiply into the millions. And in fact, the $1 million 2005 penny represents such a perfect storm of conditions that it truly is one of a kind. And scarcity is the golden rule in numismatics, because collectors value what is hard to find. And if only one or two such error coins exist from 2005, then bidding wars at auction drive the price higher and higher until it reaches astronomical levels. And this is not theoretical because history has shown us countless times how collectors have paid life-changing amounts for coins that seem ordinary but carry extraordinary stories, like the 1943 copper cent, the 1955 double die cent, or the 1969 double die cent, all coins that command hundreds of thousands. And so when a 2005 cent appears with spectacular multiple errors and pristine mint state condition, it naturally becomes worth $1 million. Because only the wealthiest and most dedicated collectors can compete for it. And beyond the errors themselves, we should also consider condition, because the grading of coins plays a critical role in value, and a coin that shows no wear, full luster, sharp strike, and is certified by grading authorities like PCGS or NGC as mint state or even MS67 or MS68 becomes worth many times more than the same error in a circulated grade. And with $1 million penny, condition is flawless, which adds to the mystique and price. And what's also interesting is how demand shapes value, because coins are like art, worth whatever someone is willing to pay, and in the competitive world of elite numismatics, rare modern errors are seen as trophies. So when the 2005 penny with its unbelievable errors surfaced, it wasn't just a coin, it was a statement, a piece of minting history, a symbol of rarity that collectors wanted to own, and this competitive desire pushed the value into the $1 million range. And when we think about possibilities of other errors that could exist but haven't been discovered yet, it makes the hunt exciting. Because imagine finding a 2005 penny with a dramatic off-metal strike, or a double denomination strike where a cent design was struck over a dime or a quarter, or a double-struck coin where the design shows two overlapping impressions, or a broad strike without collar that makes the coin spread wider than normal, or even a uniphase strike where one side is completely blank. All of these errors are possible, have been documented on other years, and could exist for 2005 as well, and if found, would instantly command huge money, perhaps even joining the $1 million range, and that's why collectors examine every coin they encounter with magnifying glasses, checking for doubling, off-centering, thickness, weight differences, missing details, or unusual features, because each little sign could mean the difference between a penny worth 1 cent and a penny worth a fortune. And when we reflect on why these coins exist in the first place, it comes down to the minting process, where thousands of coins are struck every minute under immense pressure, and despite technological advances, mistakes happen, planchets slip, dies crack, machinery misaligns, or wrong blanks get fed into the press, and though most are caught in quality control, some escape, and those few survivors are what collectors dream about. And so the $2005 million cent is not just a fluke, but the product of a system where billions are made. Yet one miracle coin emerges, and to own such a coin is like holding lightning in your hand. A tangible piece of minting history, a story you can pass on. And this is why even people who don't consider themselves collectors are encouraged to check their change, because treasures can hide anywhere, and countless stories exist of people finding rare coins in everyday circulation. So imagine stumbling on a 2005 penny that looks slightly off, sending it for grading, and discovering it's worth $1 million. That's the dream that keeps the coin world alive. And as we continue talking about the possibilities, we also have to note how auctions play a role, because when such coins appear at major auction houses like Heritage, Stack's Bowers, or Great Collections, they attract global attention, with bidders from all over the world, and the publicity itself drives prices higher, and once a coin achieves a record price, it sets a benchmark that future coins of similar rarity can follow. And this is how values continue to escalate. Next, 1983 Lincoln Penny. Thank you for joining us today as we dive deep into one of the most fascinating and surprising stories in the world of coin collecting, a world where a single small copper-colored coin can turn into a life-changing treasure, where tiny minting errors and unusual mistakes can transform what looks like ordinary pocket change into something worth a fortune. And today we're going to unravel the story of the 1983 1-cent coin, a coin that under certain conditions, thanks to its rare and eye-catching errors, has been known to reach the staggering value of $1 million, a number so extraordinary that it sounds unbelievable until you realize the passion, history, rarity, and competitive drive that surrounds coin collecting. And as we break this down, we're going to explain how a simple 1983 penny, something most people would dismiss as practically worthless, becomes a dream discovery for collectors and numismatists. And the journey to understand this begins with the backdrop of the U.S. Mint's shift in composition during the early 1980s, because prior to 1982 pennies were struck primarily from copper, but starting midway through 1982 the Mint transitioned to a zinc core coin plated with copper to save money, and that switch created a fascinating and fertile ground for mistakes, transitional errors, and anomalies. Which brings us directly into the world of the 1983 penny, a year when all officially struck pennies should have been made from zinc with a thin copper coating. But here's the catch. Some coins from that era were mistakenly struck on leftover copper planchets from 1982, and when such an error slipped out of the Mint unnoticed, it became an ultra-rare collector's item, one of the most desirable mistakes in the hobby. And that is just one of many different possibilities that make a 1983 penny so valuable today, because the list of errors extends far beyond composition alone, including double die obverse examples where the lettering and dates show strong doubling visible to the naked eye, giving the coin an unmistakable and dramatic appearance. And then, there are off-center strikes where the design is misaligned and part of the blank surface shows, as well as broad strikes where the collar failed to properly hold the coin in place during striking, leading to a wider and thinner appearance. Not to mention clipped planchets where a portion of the coin's edge is missing due to a mechanical misfeed of the blanks before striking, and then the Holy Grail type of transitional error where a 1983 penny was accidentally struck on a copper planchet instead of zinc, producing a coin that should not exist but somehow slipped out into circulation, instantly elevating its rarity and desirability. And when such a piece is authenticated and brought to auction, the price can soar into the hundreds of thousands, and in certain cases even reach $1 million. Driven by competitive bidding from wealthy collectors, who understand just how few of these pieces are in existence, and what makes this story even more compelling is that the 1983 penny has a strong doubling variety recognized by collectors, especially on the obverse side, where you can see doubling on the word Liberty, and in some cases on the date, and those double die examples, particularly in high mint state condition, have sold for astonishing sums, with some specimens fetching tens of thousands, and occasionally higher depending on condition and demand. And all of this paints a picture of why such a small denomination coin can command such big money, because it's not just about the face value, it's about the errors, the history, the rarity, and the passion of collectors. And as we peel back the layers, we discover that every possible minting anomaly, from die cracks to misaligned dies to striking on foreign planchets, could apply to a coin like the 1983 penny, making each piece a potential surprise jackpot for anyone who comes across one in their change jar. And what fascinates people even more is the chance that they too might hold one of these valuable mistakes without realizing it, which fuels the excitement and keeps the search alive. Because imagine digging through an old jar of coins, spotting a 1983 penny, weighing it on a small scale, and realizing that instead of the expected zinc weight of 2.5 grams, it weighs 3.11 grams, instantly revealing that it is actually a rare copper transitional error. And in that moment, you might be holding a coin worth hundreds of thousands or potentially up to $1 million. And stories like these spread rapidly across collector forums, auction houses, and even mainstream news outlets whenever a rare example sells for an extraordinary price. And part of the allure is also that coins like this are not only rare, but they are also a piece of history, a tangible artifact of the U.S. Mint's processes, missteps, and transitions. And collectors view them as both treasure and teacher, reminding us of how human error and mechanical imperfection can create something of immense value. And beyond the transitional composition error, there are also numerous examples of dramatic double die obverse 1983 pennies that have captured headlines and collector attention, with the most famous one showing very strong doubling in the inscriptions, making them easy to spot even with the naked eye. And such errors are highly desirable when well struck and in pristine uncirculated condition, but even circulated examples can bring significant money compared to their 1-cent face value. And this shows how diverse the range of possibilities is when it comes to the 1983 penny, because it's not only about one single type of error, but rather a whole spectrum of mistakes and anomalies that can catapult the value. And then we need to consider condition as well, because a coin graded by professional services at the highest mint state levels, like MS67 or MS68 with full red luster, can multiply its value exponentially. And when you combine that level of condition rarity with an error such as a double die or transitional planchet, you create the perfect storm for million-dollar valuations. And auction records have proven that collectors are willing to pay staggering sums for coins that check those boxes. And the 1983 penny continues to sit at the crossroads of possibility, where common circulation finds could hide an unbelievable treasure. And this idea excites both experienced numismatists and casual hobbyists, because it proves that incredible value is still hiding in plain sight. And think about it, the coin that millions of people once ignored or spit without a thought could now be the very piece that buys a house, pays off debts, or secures a collector's legacy. And when you dive into the world of numismatics, you quickly realize that every minting year, every design, and every shift in composition creates opportunities for errors. But few years are as famous and as exciting as 1983, because that was the year immediately after the official composition change, making transitional errors highly plausible, and at the same time it also produced one of the most well-known double die varieties, creating a perfect storm of desirability. And as we explore the possibilities further, we see that off-metal strikes are also part of the potential with 1983 pennies, meaning some could have been struck on planchets intended for other denominations, like a dime or a foreign coin. And such off-metal strikes are ultra-rare and always command extraordinary sums when authenticated, and the sheer number of different error types that could exist makes the 1983 penny an absolute standout in U.S. coinage history. And what makes it even more fascinating is the fact that unlike rare gold coins or commemoratives that were always intended for limited release, these pennies were mass-produced for everyday use, meaning the rare treasures are scattered among billions of ordinary examples, hiding in collections, drawers, and circulation, waiting to be discovered. And that sense of mystery and possibility keeps the hunt alive for collectors, fueling a never-ending excitement around the 1983 penny. And when we say it can be worth $1 million, it's not exaggeration, but a reflection of what the combination of rarity, demand, condition, and error type can achieve in real-world auctions where wealthy collectors compete for ownership of a numismatic marvel. And all of this reinforces why coin collecting is not just a hobby but a treasure hunt, a fascinating blend of history, art, and chance where even the smallest detail can change everything. Last 2013 D. Lincoln penny thrilling journey into the incredible world of coin collecting where small pieces of metal that most people overlook as ordinary pocket change can turn into treasures worth life-changing fortunes. And today, we are focusing on a modern coin that has shocked collectors, historians, and investors with its potential, the 2013 D. Lincoln 1 cent. A coin minted in Denver that is normally considered just another penny in circulation, but under extraordinary circumstances and because of its errors and mistakes it has the potential to be valued at an astonishing $5 million. And in this exploration we will take a closer look at why this particular year and mint mark can harbor coins of such immense value, what types of minting errors contribute to its rarity, the possibilities of how these mistakes occur, and why collectors are so willing to spend unimaginable sums to own such a piece. So let's begin with some background, because the 2013 D penny was part of the Shield Reverse series that began in 2010 to replace the Lincoln Memorial design, and by this time, the penny was composed of copper-plated zinc weighing 2.5 grams. With billions produced each year for circulation. So in theory there should be nothing special about the 2013 D penny, but the US Mint has proven again and again that even in years of massive production extraordinary errors can occur. And when they do, they create numismatic legends. And the 2013 D penny is one of those cases, where mistakes at the Denver Mint may have led to some of the most valuable error coins in modern history. So what kinds of mistakes can take an ordinary penny and make it worth $5 million? The first category to consider is double die errors, which occur when during the hubbing process the die receives multiple misaligned impressions of the design, leading to doubling of the inscriptions like, "In God We Trust, Liberty," or the date, 2013, and if the doubling is dramatic and easily visible to the naked eye, then the coin becomes a masterpiece of error collecting, similar to the legendary 1955 double die cent or the 1972 double die. And if such a double die exists on a 2013 D penny in pristine mint state condition, it could absolutely push values into the millions. Another major error type is off-center strikes where the planchet is not properly seated in the striking chamber, and the result is a coin with part of the design missing and a blank crescent of metal showing. And collectors love these coins especially when the date and mint mark remain visible, because they are both identifiable and dramatically unusual, and the more off-center the strike the rarer and more valuable the coin. Then we move into broad strikes and multiple strikes where the retaining collar fails, or the coin is struck more than once, leading to a flattened oversized penny or one with overlapping designs, both of which are highly collectible and can drive values into the tens or hundreds of thousands, and in extreme cases into the millions if the coin is unique enough. Then, there are wrong planchet errors, which are some of the rarest and most desirable in all of numismatics. And imagine discovering a 2013 D penny struck on a blank intended for a dime, a nickel, or even a foreign coin, or better yet struck on a leftover copper blank, since copper planchets were discontinued decades earlier. And such a coin would be almost priceless, instantly drawing global attention and auction bids that could easily soar to $5 million. And then we must consider die cracks, die chips, and cuts where the striking die begins to deteriorate and break apart, leaving raised lines, blobs of metal, or missing design portions on the coin. And while minor examples are common, dramatic ones covering large areas are highly prized, especially when they create unusual shapes or distort important design features. Then we have lamination errors caused by impurities or bonding issues in the copper plating over the zinc core, leading to peeling, cracking, or missing areas of the surface, and these are particularly dramatic on modern zinc pennies because the underlying silver-colored metal shows through in contrast to the copper, making the error obvious and eye-catching, and collectors love such unique appearances. Another fascinating error category is struck-through errors where foreign objects like grease, cloth, thread, wire, or even another coin fragment gets between the die and the planchet during striking, leaving behind a dramatic and unique impression on the finished coin. And struck-throughs can be extremely valuable, especially if they are large and obvious. But beyond individual error types, what truly propels a coin like the 2013 D penny into the $5 million stratosphere is the combination of rarity, condition, and collector demand. Because while minor errors are relatively easy to find, the dramatic and unique ones are often one of a kind or known in only a handful of examples. And if such a coin exists from 2013 D and has been preserved in pristine mint state red condition with blazing luster and virtually no contact marks, graded by services like PCGS or NGC as MS67 or MS68, then the value can skyrocket because collectors are willing to pay a fortune for the best of the best. And history shows us this repeatedly with coins like the 1943 bronze cent, the 1944 steel cent, and other iconic errors that have sold for over $1 million. And when you consider that the 2013 D penny is both modern and tied to the popular Lincoln cent series, which has a massive collector base, the potential for value is enormous. And let's not forget the role of auctions and publicity, because when a rare error coin is discovered and makes its way to a prestigious auction house like Heritage or Stack's Bowers, the buzz spreads quickly through the numismatic community, and wealthy collectors around the world compete to own a piece of history. And this competition drives values to record-breaking levels, and once a coin achieves a high sale price, its fame ensures that future sales will only go higher. So a $5 million 2013 D penny is not only possible, but likely if a dramatic, unique error is discovered. And what makes this story even more exciting is the possibility that such coins may still be out there, hiding in circulation, in coin rolls from the bank, in jars sitting on shelves, or in collections inherited from family members. And this is what keeps collectors hunting day after day, inspecting coins with magnifiers, scales, and careful eyes, because the idea that you could find a penny worth $5 million in your change is the ultimate dream of numismatics. And as we think about it further, we must also remember that the 2013 D penny represents a period when billions were minted, which means that the rarity of dramatic errors is even more pronounced, because among billions of ordinary coins only a tiny handful would escape with spectacular mistakes, making them priceless to the right buyers. And beyond money, there is also the story these coins tell, because each error is a record of something that went wrong at the mint, a glimpse into the fallibility of human and machine processes. And holding such a coin is like holding a piece of history that was never meant to exist, and this is why collectors treasure them so deeply. And so the story of the 2013 penny worth $5 million is not just about wealth, but about history, discovery, and the thrill of the hunt. And as collectors continue to search through rolls, jars, and collections, the possibility that someone will one day stumble across a record-shattering 2013 penny remains alive, fueling the passion and excitement of the hobby. And that is what makes this coin so fascinating, because it is both ordinary and extraordinary, both common and priceless, both overlooked and legendary. And in the end, the 2013 penny teaches us that anything is possible in numismatics, that a 1-cent coin can be worth $5 million, that history can hide in plain sight, and that the thrill of discovery is always just one coin away.